Welcome, everyone, to the Forensic Investigator Podcast hosted by Dr. Jim. Today, I'm going to give you update number 3 for the Forensic Investigator Podcast, where I will briefly discuss the upcoming episodes for July 15 through September 23 of 2026. I'm covering a couple of these for the second time because I find them very, very important for you to listen to. Victimology and suspectology assessments. This episode focuses on the importance of victimology and suspectology assessments in investigations involving sexual assault, homicide, and other serious crimes. It discusses victimology assessments, victim-offender relationships, relevant statistical data, methods for gathering background information, and the transition from victimology to suspectology, including offender risk factors. All factors the forensic death investigator must consider during the death investigation process. Then, on July 29th, Lady of the Dunes as a case study. Again, another thing that you need to listen to and to see how some of these cases have been handled. In an effort to bring the elements of a death investigation together and see them in practice, I decided it was time for me to introduce you to one of the cases I consulted on. As you will see, this was not an easy case to resolve, but thanks to the 2 very determined detectives, the victim was finally identified after 48 years, and the murder was resolved, not to mention helping a family ultimately have some finality. So, in July 1974, the remains of a woman were discovered in the dunes near Provincetown, Massachusetts. She had suffered severe trauma to the head that nearly severed her head from her body, and her hands had been removed and were never recovered. For decades, her identity remained unknown, making it far more difficult for investigators to determine what happened, how it happened, who was responsible, and why. Known to the public as the Lady of the Dunes, she remained unidentified until 2022, when she was finally reunited in memory with her son and extended family, who had spent decades wondering what had happened to her. In this episode, the detectives who investigated the case revisit the investigation from the beginning, sharing the frustrations, the setbacks, and breakthroughs they experienced along the way. The case highlights the persistence required to pursue justice and bring a long-awaited answer to a family. Then on August 12, 2026, I want to start a couple of segments on investigative interviewing, and the first one is going to be the basics, where interviewing is a critical skill for law enforcement with a focus on open-ended questions and having what we call the 80-20 rule. The imbalance in question types, constrained wait time, and frequent interruptions hinder effective interviews. Specialized training for investigative interviewing is essential, but often underfunded. In this episode, I will discuss the basics of investigative interviewing and will follow up later with a description of the different models that are taught. Now, on to August 26, 2026. Here we're going to talk about the hunt for DNA, and we're going to look at the myths and the realities. The discussion covers the history and evolution of DNA analysis in forensic investigations, including the use of DNA in criminal cases, the development of DNA testing techniques, the role of CODIS, mitochondrial DNA, familial DNA, and investigative genetic genealogy. It also explores the challenges and advancements in DNA collection and analysis. The conversation covers a range of topics related to forensic investigation, DNA evidence, sexual assault kits, and the role of law enforcement in solving cases. It also delves into the challenges of DNA testing, the importance of jury duty, and the significance of communication between scientists and law enforcement. And with this, I'll have a guest speaker, Sam, Samantha, I call her, and she is a DNA expert and is very, very knowledgeable. On September 9th, though, we're going to go back to investigative interviewing. This time, we're going to look at the models that are taught. I will discuss the various models of investigative interviewing, including the cognitive interview, behavior-oriented interview, PEACE model, that's P-E-A-C-E model, and the READ technique. I will also explore the use of voice stress analysis and polygraph in investigative tactics, highlighting their controversies and limitations. Then on September 23rd, I've got a colleague of mine by the name of Steve Chancellor, who is an expert on staged crime scenes. And he's going to discuss the obviously staged crime scenes and equivocal deaths as an introduction. This podcast delves into the concept of staged crime scenes, the development of them, the training of them, the types of staging in crime scenes, prominent crimes for staging, the rules that apply to staging, the overlap between equivocal deaths and staging, and the challenges that law enforcement face in these investigations. It will also talk about the impact of experience and training and how future plans and expansion occur. Be on the lookout over the next month or so for my short segments that I will emphasize certain notable topics. Also, should any of my listeners have a case they would like to discuss, please reach out to me at my email of jma.forensicinvestigator@gmail.com or go through my website at www.jma4ensics.com. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy and take care.